Hey, welcome back. Man, we are lucky today. We have a return guest. This guest came here a while ago talking about my not favorite subject, math. Telling us all about what's been going on in math. Well, I'm telling you, I talk to parents all the time. They go crazy. You're looking at one. Trying to help my children and my grandchildren with their math has made me a lunatic. Couldn't wait for someone to tell us what this is all about. Not only is she telling us, she wrote a book about it. Welcome to Mathland, and welcome to Linda Kasal Fusco. Linda.
Glad to be back here.
Yeah, we've been friends forever.
Ever and ever.
And I love what you do. I love the way you make the complicated simple. This new book, Navigating Mathland, is an important book because it does exactly that. It navigates all that crazy confusion we have. Parents are bombarded with homework they don't get. And it's a way of thinking. You have been very much involved in teacher training. You know, I did that for a long time. I was teaching teachers. You've been doing that, and you have a real battle because you've been teaching teachers how to teach math. Talk to me about this wonderful new book and what you're doing.
Well, the book is really focused after so many years. I'm in my 48th year of public education, and after so many years, and I'm looking in and I'm going, you know, we need to really have a book for parents.
Yeah, we
a
do.
lot of books out there for teachers, but we need to have a book for parents because the road is very convoluted, and their child is going to be in school for at least 13 years. And I can tell you in the last 4 years, the New York State has changed its math curriculum 4 times. So it's fits and starts,
I mean,
and it gets
we keep hearing this, new math,
Yeah.
and the parents are going, I can't do new math. It isn't new, is it, Linda?
No, it's
Well,
really not.
What is it?
Well, what it is it's really, we were growing up with the old content, you know, this is the content and this is the algorithm and this is how we do it step by step. But really, this is another approach so that we can invite more of our learners or different thinkers into the process.
What you're doing is what I've been trying to do with writers. You know, I work with all kinds of writers. And what I've been trying to do is to get them to understand the difference between process and product. It's not the poem that's important. It's the message that the poem conveys. It's understanding the thinking behind novels and poems. And math is the same way.
Yes.
I always believed that math was logical thinking, right or wrong, period. So I said, I'm out. You know, I'm the kind of guy who wants to be able to come up with his own design, his own style, his own way of communicating. So you're, in a way, trying to do that too. You're trying to teach people what communicating math is.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, what it is in the old way, just like you said, everything was algorithms, everything was step by step, and actually, many of our kids are not that way of thinking. They want to do the creative.
Yeah, especially these days.
They want to create. They want to say, wait a minute, what if this happens? What if that happens? Why can't I have why can't I ask
2 and 2 isn't always 4.
And the other is we have kids who learn by talking to other kids, and that's they're interpersonal learners. So in the old way, you just had the regular straight lessons, and you know, like you said, the teacher said this.
You learn a formula, and it's that way or none.
This way doesn't get rid of that because you know you need to say, you know, here's the pieces of the puzzle, and here's how you put it together, and here's how you apply it. But the new way really engages kids in actually talking about their ideas and being able to present their ideas through what we call non-routine problems.
So again, it's not the product, it's the process.
Right.
And I mean, I've heard growing up so many times, I've heard the teacher say, look, don't give me the answers. Give me the the formula, the system you used to get the answer. And I wasn't understanding what they were trying to say to me. To me, the answer was important when it came to math, because it was either that answer or no answer.
Yeah.
But this way of thinking, you have this wonderful thing in this book about pizza.
Yeah. I give an example of a typical problem that actually, I don't know if they can see this. Can you take a look at this?
You might be able to.
Can you pan in?
Sorry, crew, we didn't give you an advance warning on this one.
No, it's in the book, but it explains that sometimes there are many answers to a problem, even in math. And it's the way that you present your answer. So in this particular case, we know that when we go out and we get a Sicilian pizza, it's rectangular. And we know that we can get a large pizza or a small pizza. But basically, when you cut it up, the small portion of the pizza is the same size for the small portion, for the small pizzas, for the large pizza. We know that. We can cut that up, right? You get a small one, 6 pieces.
A certain percentage or a certain ratio to the whole.
Right. So what this does is, now you say, okay, the students know how to do this. They know how to figure out a rectangular pizza and what in the size.
And how to make equal size for everyone.
But then you say, okay, now today we're going to talk about round pizzas, and we're going to talk about large and small, and then let them take their knowledge and what they've learned about percents and proportions and unit size and price, and let them have a discussion to come up to see whether the large pizza that's cut into 8 slices gives you the same portion as the small pizza cut into 6 parts. And that discussion, and I have done this with special ed students, special ed classes. You could do this with any range of students. And the students are riveted because it's about them getting their share, their right piece of pizza.
So if 8 people go out for pizza, and they order a large, and they each have an equal size piece, it would be the same as 6 people ordering a medium-sized pizza and having 1 slice of a 6-slice pizza. It would be exactly the same size.
Well, you would think that, but this is where the gray comes in.
Okay.
All right? Because now with a round, they're slightly off. If you do the calculations, and a student will say, hey, wait a minute, the crust on a small pizza is smaller than the crust on the large. A large pizza is larger than the crust on the small pizza. So that takes into consideration. Suppose the person doesn't eat the crust. Is he getting the right portion? So that type of discussion starts to get a critical thinking.
So it changes it from black and white.
Yes.
To gray.
Yeah.
And it gives them an opportunity to think, to find out whether they're being cheated or not.
Right, exactly. And it's through that process. It's through transferring knowledge, and that they're able to come up with their solution as a team, present their argument, and support it with their...
One of the few times that I don't mean to be sacrilegious, but one of the few times that I appreciated math was when I realized that when I go into the store and they give me a percentage off, I could figure out exactly how much it's going to cost me as opposed to what it would have cost me without the percentage off. And that was real for me. Instead of paying $30, I was paying $21. That made sense. And I wanted to know that I was saving $9. So that's important because you made it real.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about.
And you want the students to come back the next day and say, wait a minute, if I go to this one pizza parlor, pizza is this much, and that's how much it's costing me. But if I go to another one, pizza is this much. And, they start to have...
And if I go with 5 kids, and if I go with 4 kids...
Right, and they have that discussion, and that now they're engaged. Yeah. They're engaged with something that is meaningful to their life.
There you go, because I've said it 1,000 times. I mean, I was never a real math student. And I always said, big deal. What does it mean to me? Do I care about math? Yeah. No, honest to God, I didn't. I just didn't care about math because I didn't understand what it had to do with me.
And that's one of the 7 hurdles I talk about in the book, and they can read about making math meaningful to your child. Not to just general public, but to what does it mean? How does it involve my life? Why is it important to me? How is it related to maybe a career choice?
Yeah. And how can I understand things that I didn't understand before? Yeah. And how it relates to me. Yeah. So it makes perfect sense. I mean, I actually read your book and got it. I understood. You make it plain and simple. Now you do that for teachers. You
Yes,
go to
I do.
school districts
I do.
and you talk to them
Yeah.
and you try to help them understand. So there's two terms that drive people nuts today. One is new math, because as soon as they hear new math, they have a reason for not knowing how to do it. It's new, they're old, and they don't need to understand it. The other is this new fight they're having in education. Can we say that word? What this new education is called? I'm trying to think of the term. I can't cut. Yeah, yes. The Common Core. Common Core is not common, and it makes people nuts.
Yeah.
And I don't like to bring it up because I know, is this Common Core? Is this not Common Core? What exactly?
Well, they just put a new name on that Common Core.
Okay.
It's called standard-based approach as opposed to a content-based. And what the standard-based approach does is it not only gives you the background that you need and the fluency that you need to do the math, but also gives you the opportunity to explore different situations, to model your math in regular applicable applications such as building. You build, et cetera.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that it's
Reminds me of an old war.
Yeah.
Skills-based versus whole language.
I know.
I've been there. I was the director of teacher training. I was the district coordinator for whole language. Oh my God, whole language was like a swear word, I mean, people were like, teachers were, get away from me, it was like, stay out. But there was a simple explanation for it, and that is the understanding that understanding formulas and skills are still very important. And with whole language, it was still important. But there was also an underlying understanding about whole language, about delivering what it is you're trying to say. And in math, that's exactly what it is. People learned formulas and not concepts. And that made it very difficult. So I think helping teachers understand more than what they're teaching, but why they're teaching it. And that's what I think you do in this book.
Yeah.
I began to understand why math.
Yeah.
And for years, I have to be honest with you, I was like, why am I doing this? Algebra, all these other forms of math, to me, were foreign languages.
Yeah. And the core is just another rendition of standards-based, which has been around for 30 or 40 years. And again, it's about the argument. It's about letting students talk about what they're thinking about, write about what they're thinking about, explain what they're thinking about. Why do you think you can solve this problem? Why is your solution?
And it's not just rote memory.
No.
I couldn't, listen, I love poetry, but I can't memorize it to save my life. I've written hundreds of poems. I know one. I can recite you one poem that I've written. The rest I can't. And I would have loved to have been a wonderful actor. I couldn't memorize my lines. So I'm not very good at memory. So I couldn't remember all these formulas, A plus B plus D, and I was in another world.
Well, you just mentioned something very important, that when this is imposed on students, 80% of students don't feel they can do math. Because they can't remember or they can't apply. So they start to become math phobic at a very early age.
Poetry phobic.
Yeah. And they're, instead of being involved with, because they would understand the algorithms that you're talking about math if they actually saw how they're applied to the world.
How they were created and what importance they had to the world. You're right. And same thing with poetry. Sometimes we pushed poetry from the 17th century on some of these kids, or the 18th century or 19th century. For those poets who were writing at that time, that was crucial information. They wrote from their hearts. They wrote about the things they experienced and saw. And some of the kids today couldn't relate to that because they didn't live in that period. But have them write about drugs or peer pressure or war, and it was a whole different world.
Oh, yeah, and now today you have so many young kids that are entrepreneurs. Now, if they know the math behind, okay, this is what I want to make, this is my product, you can do a whole interaction between quadratic equations and linear equations, and they can come up with where their profit is going to be.
Look at what they're doing with the computers.
Yeah.
Being able to go in and create a language, a whole logo that other people just have no idea of. But a lot of that is math.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a way of thinking, and in this day and age, oh my God, we have to have it.
I know, and for the parents, they really can't take a back seat. They have to be really advocates, and so the book explains to them what they can do to advocate for their child, and they can ask the school to really give them a clinical evaluation of what skills their child knows or doesn't know. And they can, those kids can practice that, you know. They just need to keep check. The parents need to keep check that the kids are fluent, and they keep their fluency up. Do they know their numbers? Do they know their number sense? Do they know fractions, decimals? That's it. Do they have to know how to do?
Go ahead.
Do they have to know how to do the new math? No. They don't, but they need to also make sure that their kids learn to read and comprehend. That's major, all right? And they also, the book explains things they can support and things that are out of their control, such as, you know, the antiquated industrial model that we're on with our school system.
One of the things I got out of your book is that it's not new math, it's old math for a new world. And that's really what it is. It's understanding what math means to us today and what we have to learn and work with to make our world today work.
Yeah, you know, and that. And it also goes in, gives them a little background to our education system, which I think is important. You know, how the one-room schoolhouse became, you know, the huge schools with 45 minutes and 150 kids in a class. It talks about, you brought this up before, we march our kids in as cohorts as opposed to where they are. So in the one-room schoolhouse, you used to have a person that may have been in first grade, but he was able to interact with a third grader in math. Maybe a sixth grader in science, and maybe he needed to work on his writing skills at the first grade.
And it wasn't grade levels, it was thinking levels.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And it was different. I mean, that's something as a teacher.
That
I struggled with a long time. I didn't get it. If you were 11, you should know this and be on page 83. You know, and that made me crazy because not all kids learn at the same rate. We know that.
No, and everybody is different learners.
Yes.
And when you give them problems like the pizza problem, and you have teams where the students discuss, you have different types of thinkers discussing what they are thinking about, and it's a way for them to learn the communication skills and the teamwork, which is 21st century skills.
It was interesting because I could never understand how people could get math so easily. And they couldn't understand how I could sit there and write a chapter without ever getting up, or poems, or it was different ways of thinking.
Yes.
People are different. So what I like about what you have here is that you address differences.
Yes.
You address different ways to learn, and that's important.
Very simple. There are 4 different perceived learning styles for math, and they're really not really brought into the classroom because they should be.
But that's
some kids are rote learners.
What our education was. It was a factory model.
Exactly. Some kids are understanding, but then you have some kids who have to talk about it, and then some kids who have to do the creative part of it. So there's 4 different basic approaches. And this talks about how kids prefer to learn math.
And this is not pass-fail.
No, it is. Well, that's the other thing, you know, as far as the grading and the, you know, the stuff that goes on with grading. What does it mean to get an A? What does that mean, you know?
I felt stupid because I couldn't do math. You know, I didn't get all these fancy figures and numbers, and I just felt stupid. And fortunately, I was able to learn that there were other things that I excelled in. What I should have learned is that there was a way for me to learn it.
Yes.
It isn't just, I mean, look at our education system. If you fail, what do? They make you repeat.
Again.
So you repeat the failure.
Yes.
And maybe you get it and maybe you don't.
Well, typical homework assignment, here's 40 problems to do that we learned in class, and they come back and the kids have trouble. Okay, we'll give you 40 more.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Go back again.
Yeah. Or you fail it and then you go to the next unit.
Yeah.
Because if you're in 5th grade, by January, we're on page 87, whether you learn page 67 or not.
Yeah.
And that's what it was.
And it's causing havoc. And, you know, we are 32 in comparison to the other industrial nations. We are number 30. We are last on the list as far. And our education system.
We're such a wonderful country.
Yes, we are.
There's things we don't get.
Yeah, and we could make this really, really terrific. I talk about a student in there who I had who wanted to build a house, you know, and he realized that he had to know all his fractions, decimals, and percent. So what did he do? He came, this is a 10th grader, 11th grader. He said, I'm deficient in this. I need to be better.
Yeah.
And what he did is he did practice it and learned it and became a mastery in it, you know.
You know that as a hobby, I've been playing around with making furniture out of wood and trees and trying to do these things. If I don't measure it correctly, it's lopsided. So I do have to learn how to use
tools,
tape measures and tools, and I have to understand that there's certain things I have to do because of the size of the blade, and that when I measure it, it's going to change if the blade is thicker or thinner. And there's things I have to learn, and it has to do with math.
Yeah.
But because I know that if I don't do it, it's going to be lopsided, I do it, and I figure it out.
Well, sometimes if it comes out lopsided, you learn a lot more from your mistakes. And that's the other thing is we don't allow our kids to fall off the bike.
Yeah.
And we need to do that because they learn a lot through their mistakes and what they did wrong.
And when I put my hands on the math, I learn a great deal more.
Yeah.
Sitting at the desk and learning formulas that I couldn't remember did nothing for me.
Yeah, no.
So, but is it important to learn them? Yeah. But then when you figure out why it's important, that when you do things and they won't work if you don't know them, you learn them.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So, you know, as I said, it's a really supporter for the parents because, as I say, their students are going to be. Talks about what it is, what kind of teacher, how to deal with the teacher, you know.
So what am I going to say besides telling them to read Navigating Mathland? What can I say to parents to make them not feel defeated, not feel like losers, failures? Well,
they can become active in getting the right type of a program and an evaluation for their child as far as math goes. And the school systems have these wonderful technology that'll really zone in and pick out exactly what the kids can and can do. And they're prescriptive. And
aren't there ways on the computer?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
You can actually go on and learn the old new math?
Yes. Yeah, and school systems have these. It's just sometimes it never trickles out to the community.
Because parents feel defeated.
Yeah, and
I
they
mean, I felt the same way. When my son handed me the book and I looked at it and he said, explain it to me, and I couldn't, he brought me back to my old school days of feeling like a loser.
But today you can sign on to, and there are myriad of online help, and they will instruct you. Exactly. They will show you. They give you a hand.
Understanding.
So you can get it. So you're not so you don't have to wait another 8 hours for your child to go back to school and maybe get an answer. There's really ways that are very clear and very helpful and supportive. But as far as the technology goes, like the Khan Academy, you can go on and they have specific parent-friendly support. A lot of these technology places do too.
Linda, we are about 3 minutes from the end.
Okay.
Time goes by when you're having fun.
Oh my gosh.
So this Navigating Mathland and this, you're out trying to help people understand that math is not a foreign language.
Right. It's important to me as a 21st
it's
century
very important, and that's what I learned from you. I respect you as a friend for years, but she's a math teacher, and I'm an English teacher. Other than that, if we put those things aside, then we can continue being friends. But it's not true. It's not a foreign language, and we as parents owe it to ourselves to understand what this is all about so that we can help our kids, so that we can keep our kids from feeling like failures.
Yeah.
The words in white print, can you read those to us?
How parents can help their kids through the maze, which is exactly what it is, because it changes.
That's why I wanted you to read that, because it is a maze, and it was a maze for me too.
Yeah.
And my first reaction is to be, go ask your aunt, go ask your mother, go ahead, because I can't do it. You know what? I can. That's what we have to teach our children. Yeah. They can. Math is a language you need to help your life be better. And you owe it to yourself to understand it. Read a book like Navigating Mathland. Go online and try to figure out exactly what they're trying to say to you. I think you're going to be very pleasantly pleased at what you learn.
And I have a blog.
Navigating. Good. The blog is?
NavigatingMathland.com.
Navigatingmathland.com.
And I update it every week, and we talk about, real current issues, and, it's about for parents. And
go online, learn, find out what it is. Linda, oh man, I can't thank you enough for being here.
Well, I thank you.
Let's get people to understand what you're trying to say. Please, go on Linda's blog. Look at some of the exercises she offers for you. Get to see that it's not as difficult as you think it is. Go online. Read this book. Understand math for what it is. A logical way of thinking. Mm-hmm. Linda! Keep us posted.
I will.
Let us know what's going on.
Definitely.
It's really, really a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. Thank you for being a part of this. And don't let math be a foreign language to you.